6 inches of sand on top of that and then rototill that whole area. If I'm working under a tree, I'd have to do all of that work by hand because I don't want to hurt the roots of the tree. But once you do that soil amendment, then you can just pop all of the plants into the ground. It's very easy.
So you really want to dig down then, a good 2 feet.
Really want to dig down.
To make a bed that's really going to bloom all summer.
Right.
And that way the roots that don't have as much, it's not as hard for the roots to spread out into the soil when it's nice and loose and cultivated. They have an easy way of just getting established really quickly.
That's right. You know, and it's important to fertilize those plants. Initially, I would wait about 2 weeks before I would fertilize, and then I would fertilize with a granular, just kind of sprinkling it around the base of the plant according to the directions, a real even mix like a 20-20-20, and water that in. When speaking of watering, the plants should get watered about 1 inch of rainfall every 4 days. And if we don't have that, that's when we have to supplement watering.
What's the best way to water? I know they have soaker hoses now that you can just weave in among your plants. Is that a good way to do it, or do you prefer the misting, or what's the best way to keep the plants watered?
The way I prefer to do it is soaker hoses. I think soaker hoses are innocuous. You can kind of hide them in the mulch, and then you don't have to see the watering system. And they're very energy efficient, or water efficient. They're not going to waste water in the air dehydrating. It's going to soak directly into the ground, and it gives a nice, thorough, even moisture.
I was going to touch on that because I really dislike the use of sprinklers just because the majority of the water is getting lost in the air and going every which way. But when you use something like a drip irrigation source or a soaker hose, the water goes right to the root source of the plants, and that way it saves water for everybody.
That's right.
And you said you need about 1 inch of rainfall every 4 days. Are there directions on the soaker hose that tell you how long to leave it on then, or how do you know when you're getting the right amount, when you've watered enough?
I kind of guess. Very honestly, I kind of guess. I just keep an eye on it. I probably soak for about an hour during that period of time that I have the soaker hose on.
And any time of day that you want to avoid watering, or best time to water?
If you're doing overhead watering, you avoid during the evening because then the water sets on the plants and you might cause a fungal problem later on in the season, especially when we have those hot, humid dog days.
So like the powdery mildew really kicks on with people who water their plants at night with that sprinkler.
That's correct. But if you're using soaker hoses, you can water just about any time because you're not actually getting water on the leaves.
And we have just a couple minutes left, but you want to tell us about some of the other plants that you brought?
Oh, sure. These two plants here are both called osteospermum. They're plants that originate in South Africa. They've been brought into the nursery trade recently. There's this very lovely one with the kind of twisted petals, and then there's one with the more open petals. These are both annuals, and they make great additions to a combination pot. The one next to that is a heuchera, or a coral bell. That's one of the more unusual modern cultivars. I'm not sure of the name on that. I can't quite see the label of that. But that's related to the one, Purple Palace, that was very popular just a few years ago. The small little herb right here is relative of the common Swedish ivy. That's called Plectranthus, and that has a very nice fragrance on the leaves, and it fills out a combination pot and kind of gives it a nice bright color with that light variegation.
Wait, is this a pennisetum? I love these seed heads right here.
Right, this is the pennisetum. This is the rubrum pennisetum. A great addition to a combination pot. You can set that in the center. It's going to give a bold splash of red once it's in full sun during the summer.
Oh, that'll be beautiful. And this one looks related to the one that you showed us over here with the variegated leaves.
Is that a Nora Lee phlox, Michael?
Yes, this is Phlox Nora Lee, Jeremy. It's one of the newer cultivars. They actually are micro-propagating it now. You have this wonderful variegation. That variegation becomes more intense as the plant matures. It's a very good plant. It's a strong growing perennial.
Is that related to the creeping phlox that I see a lot of people have in their yards?
It's in the same genus, right.
Okay, so some more suggestions on how you can choose plants for your yard and then how you can maintain them. We'll be back later with some more helpful hints. And Michael, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Incredible information, Maureen. Just every segment gives us more and more things that we can remember. You know, the watering segment there is one that I found so interesting because everyone in northeastern Ohio gets home from work, has dinner, goes out and waters. The worst time to water is at night when the water just sits there.
I know. You should water in the morning before you go to work.
And people, you're exactly right.
We all want 5 more minutes of sleep instead of 5 minutes out in the garden.
That's exactly it. Most people, they either water when the sun is highest and then it can burn the plants, or late in the day when the water sets there way too long. Morning is the time.
I know.
Yeah.
I was interested in the deadheading.
Yes.
Because I learned a long time ago, and I saw from my own plants that it really does make a difference if you do a lot of deadheading and get rid of those right away, and you do have a lot more flowers that way.
Right.
My husband laughs at me, however, about many things. This is only one. When he sees me deadheading, he calls me Morticia Adams.
Oh, yes,
because
remember
if you
that?
recall, Morticia would bring in a bouquet from the garden, and then she would snip all of the
That's right,
flowers
I'd
off
forgotten
because
that.
she preferred all the stems. So I have many nicknames, but
Well,
that's one.
Morticia, I'm glad you're with us here today, and I hope right now that you will go to your telephone, dial that number that you see on your screen. If you've just joined us, you're in the middle of an incredible program, The Gardener's Guide for Northeastern Ohio, being produced in cooperation with Cleveland Botanical Garden and a lot of experts around Northeastern Ohio who are coming through the WVIZ PBS studios today to share with you gardening tips that are specific to right here where we live in Northeastern Ohio. And if you go to your telephone right now and pledge at the $60 level, we have a really unique thank you gift. It's the Gardener's Guide to Northeastern Ohio loose leaf binder. What it is, it's 20 years of hints and tips and questions and answers and articles from Cleveland Botanical Garden's newsletter that went to members. They went back into the archives and put this all together into just a fabulous book, and it will come to you. We'll talk about it more as we go along here at the $60 level. At the $90 level, choices of 2 items. We'll talk more about these during this intermission, but to let you know what they are, one is the home video of the Gardener's Guide to Northeast Ohio, the very video that you're watching today. We're going to take all the professional gardening segments and put them together into one video with easy references for you to find the segments that you want. That will come your way at $90, or if you'd rather, we'll send you the Cleveland Garden Handbook. But as Maureen and I have been saying during this entire show, forget about those levels. Go right to the $180 level, because not only will you be helping WVIZ with its mission of providing this kind of education, we'll also send you all of the thank you gifts that we've been talking about.
Well, and I'm looking at this Cleveland Botanical Garden Gardener's Guide for Northeast Ohio, the loose leaf book, and there's one right here that I need because I talked about my African violet in my office, and it says, my African violet has not had flowers for quite a while. It bloomed well last year. What's going on? Well, mine was blooming just fine until we got to the winter, and now it has stopped blooming, and I thought, well, maybe that's just a winter thing.
Sure.
It says, there are a number of reasons. In winter especially, light may be insufficient. Air that's too dry or too cold will also retard flowering. Also, look at the main stem to see if the side shoots are developing. If they are, remove them. I didn't know to do that. I haven't done that. See, more of that pruning stuff.
Right.
The plants may also stop flowering for a time if they're moved to a new location. Too frequent repotting is another cause of failure to flower. African violets, I know, can be difficult, and here, in that one little segment is probably all the information you need to know in order to keep your African violets going.
Right. And you know, you're only 1.5 hours into a 4-hour program. If you just joined us, you've already missed some incredible programs. You've missed us talking about how to sow seeds indoors so that you can take them outside. You've missed a segment on gardening tools. What's the latest in gardening tools and what sort of things should you have? You've missed a segment on annuals that we did in the greenhouse with Angelo Petiti just a little bit ago on the kinds of new annuals and perennials that are coming out these days. We just had a section on annuals that have been around for a while and how you deal with those, and much, much more to come. Now, you won't miss any of it if you pledge at that $180 level, because you're going to receive the video of all of these segments. And if you're worried because maybe you have to leave in an hour or so before the program's over, you'll still have everything that you missed. It'll all be there for you. So we hope you'll go to that $100 and make that $180 pledge right now to get the video and to get both books as our way of saying thank you for your support. And you know, yes, ma'am,
We have another question.
We do.
We have another question from someone who was at the Cleveland Home and Garden Show.
Great.
My name's Jack, I'm from Cleveland, and I want to know, why does the snow always melt around the flower of a skunk cabbage?
How did he get in there?
Jack from Cleveland. If he looks familiar, obviously the crew ran into Jack Marshall from channels 19 and 43 out at the Home and Garden Show. And we thank him for his question, but you know, it seemed like kind of a silly question, as Jack would give us, but it's in here. You know, it says this, it's one of the most amazing, the fact that the snow melts is one of the most amazing phenomenon in the plant world. The eastern skunk cabbage actually has the ability to produce heat and melt snow around the flower. As a matter of fact, it can maintain a temperature of between 27 and 63 degrees Fahrenheit higher than the air around it. It's just remarkable.
That is.
And the skunk cabbage, which you may have not noticed, it is part of the Jack in the Pulpit family, same family that's in, and it's a native to the northeastern Ohio area. You may not have have noticed it. It says because the flower, you find it in woodland areas, it blends well with some of the dead vegetation around it. But it says the source of energy for this tiny little furnace is the vast amounts of carbohydrates stored in the underground stem. And even more amazing fact is that these high temperatures can be maintained and regulated for a period of almost 2 weeks. Unbelievable. And this is just one of the interesting kind of facts that can come your way if you just run to your telephone, don't walk but run, and dial that number on your screen. Why not pledge the $180 level? And what we'll send to you is not only the home video of the program and not only the Cleveland Garden Handbook, the second edition of that, but this incredible book that's been put together with our friends at Cleveland Botanical Garden that just gives so many facts and figures. So get to your telephone right now, make that pledge of support to continue these kinds of programs here in Northeastern Ohio.
Well, you know, $180 too, it may seem like a lot of money kind of all in one chunk, but put it on your credit card, $180, that's the equivalent of $15 a month for a whole year's worth of programming on WVIZ. Isn't $15 a month worth it for you to get the kinds of information and education and constant entertainment and how-tos? I mean, nobody else is doing this kind of programming. Nobody else is doing a how-to gardening show like we're doing right now at WVIZ. So make sure you go to your phones. We have people from the Ford Motor Company here. They're here giving up their Sunday afternoon to talk to you and take your pledge because they care about WVIZ. So I know you care about WVIZ too, so go to the phone and make your pledge right now. Make your pledge even if you're not interested in the thank you gifts. You don't have to take the thank you gifts. You can say, no, I want all of that money to go to produce more programming like this on WVIZ.
And you know, Maureen, when you get this book in your hands, it's got wonderful information for the amateur gardener, someone just beginning, but it also has a lot of detailed information for those who want more information, like this question. It says, I'm confused. What's the proper way to write a plant's botanical name? Sometimes it's the second word is capitalized, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's the third word is in quotes, sometimes it's not. Help! It says, you know, when I go into a garden, I say, isn't that flower pretty? But others want to know, no, that's the ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. There's always Latin involved. And it really gives you a whole section here on exactly what you can learn from knowing the actual formal name of the botanical name of any plant, because it actually tells you the family and the genus that it's from. So we hope that you'll go to your telephone right now, make that pledge of support, and we hope that you'll go and put that pledge right now on your MasterCard, your Visa, your Discover card, or your check debit card. We're waiting to hear from you.
Entertain your brain and support WVIZ PBS. When you call and pledge your support at the $60 level and above, using your Visa, Discover, MasterCard, or check debit card, your pledge dollars go to work instantly, bringing quality programming into your home. As our thank you, you'll receive a coupon worth $5 off of your next purchase of $50 or more at WVIZ's Store of Knowledge, located at South Park Center, Belden Village, or Beechwood Place. Thank you for charging your pledge to WVIZ PBS, where you belong.
We've got lots more coming here on WVIZ today as we have your Gardener's Guide to Northeast Ohio. Next segment is about using flowers, composting, and mulches. This is an area that I know people are always very concerned about. How often do I fertilize? What combination of fertilizing do I use? How do I compost? How does that work? Can I use maple leaves for mulch? In fact, that's one of the questions in the book that we're offering at the $60 pledge level today. If someone said, can I use maple leaves to mulch around my garden? The answer is right here in this book, along with many, many other things that the Cleveland Botanical Garden put together in newsletters and sent out to their members over the last 20 years. And this is the first time that this information has been pulled together in one comprehensive book. And what can make this even more comprehensive for you in your gardening life is that this is a three-ring binder. You can add all of your own other resources of tips, notes that you want to put in the book. There are pockets in this binder available to you for that $60 pledge. But we really want people to consider an even larger contribution.
Pledge, right. We hope you'll do that. Lots of great segments coming up. We'll talk about those as we go along. You're not even halfway through this incredible Gardener's Guide to Northeastern Ohio. Let's go back over into the garden, visit with Julie and Jeremy, and see who they have with them now.